Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to some of you and peace out to the rest of you. Hit the share button because the message is more important than the messenger. If you were hearing this around sometime between October the 19th, 20th, or 21st, you're hearing this on Buy Me a Coffee. If you were hearing this after, let's say about 2 weeks after that, which would be about the 4th, 5th, or 6th of November, then you got this 2 weeks later than everybody else because you did not subscribe to the business or first class section of Jet Black Airways. And truth be told, it's better a deal for you to subscribe to the first class section, but business class, still not a bad deal for you. For the price of one coffee, one donation, it's the same thing. You could just do it monthly and you're in the business class section. You can get things that even one-time donors would not see. But in any case, getting back to this, you see the title, and this is about Jordan Peterson. And I'm going to tell you what his advice means in the current climate of a gender war. Jordan Peterson recorded something giving 8 reasons that men should never get involved with a Westernisha. He said he was giving us 8 things a man should never do. And I agree that men shouldn't do these things. What he did not understand was exactly how much he was telling us. And even he did not understand how intentional it is that you can't just merely follow this advice and then be on the good path. The first thing he said was, never let her have a male best friend. The second, never fight another man over a woman. 3, don't waste your time chasing a woman who doesn't want you. 4, spend nothing on a woman who brings no value to your life. 5, never take back a woman who left you for another man. 6, don't stay with an unfaithful or ungrateful woman. 7, don't stay with a disrespectful woman. 8, don't stay with a woman who despises you and wants to leave. Now I'm going to tell you a story, and you'll wonder why I'm telling you about it until I tie it together and land this jet black aircraft. In my class, I tell my students certain things. Everything I tell them not to do, they do. They leave and neglect everything I tell them to do. I tell them to practice the same grammar corrections I teach them, and they instead repeat the same errors to which I taught them the corrections. I tell them when something is incorrect, and then they debate me like I don't know that it's wrong. I tell them not to interrupt, and, Abdurrahman does it every mother cuss word time. I had to kick him out for interrupting me. I had to threaten him with a free flying lesson from a 3rd-story window as well, and guess what? He still does it. His classmates this week had to threaten him for him to fuck the shuck up and let me finish a sentence, and he was about to debate me about either teaching or about English. I told the students to not even ask me about marking them present when they're absent, and his stank ass does it weekly. He did it today. Well, actually, no, it was yesterday, but before yesterday. And I marked him absent just for that, because I said, if you ask me to mark you present when you're absent, I'll mark you absent that day. Stupid. I'm sick of that nigga. I told him that when we have exams, they're not to ask for a bathroom break outside of the specific times we already allotted during the exams. This bun of a sitch waits until the exams and then starts bothering us about having an emergency in his bladder. Dumbass. And he tries to smile innocently when he does it. The nigga's testing boundaries. Now, between him and his classmate with ADHD, I began to realize that he and his niggas aren't doing this out of immaturity or ill preparation. They're doing it on purpose. Some would say, well, for what? Why would they do that? Are they just trying to keep the standards low? Are they doing it because they just want to get away with as much as possible? It's both. Those two are one and the same. They're doing it so the standard is never raised to maximize what they get away with. They don't care that doing that makes them useless, even with the degree. It makes the degree useless. If they succeeded in what they were trying to do, the degree would mean nothing that they get at the end. when they graduate. They want universities to all have to make tough choices between unprepared nigger Bedouin students to try and teach, or closing their doors and defeating their purpose for ever opening up and going into business to begin with. They're in a silent agreement with each other, and they learn at a young age to shame males from among them who learn and take it seriously. Does this sound familiar? Now you want me to land this jet black aircraft? So let's start by looking at number one on Jordan Peterson's list. Never let her have a male best friend. They know that this is valid, and they know why it's valid when they hear anybody, him or Saudi the psychologist or me or you, say this. They know why it's valid. When she finds out that this is your standard, she's going to then have a male best friend, even if she didn't have one before. She will insist. Now you're in a quandary. If you bend, she'll lose respect for you. And if you don't, she'll lose respect for you because you're insecure. But she will be cheating if you don't have that standard. So what you must understand is that West Tanisha was going to cheat no matter what. And that's why it is that she's not going to go by the standard. She's just going to find a way to disrespect you no matter what you do. Let her have one, she'll have one. She would never cheat on you if you were her male best friend, or she would never cheat with you if you were her male best friend. In other words, you wouldn't get them draws, but she'll give some to her male best friend when you're her man. You pay the bills, you subsidize her smashing that best friend. And that's most of us. But she will be cheating. If she doesn't cheat with that male best friend, she'll cheat with someone else who is flying under your radar. So then he'll simply be a decoy and a distraction. You think, well, she's closer to him than anybody else, so if she's cheating, then she's going to cheat with him, and then it's not him. That's why she insists on it, though. She can cheat. She can get another dingling that's not yours. You better be committed, though. Jordan is right. Dr. Peterson is right. But that alone will eliminate almost every single Western woman, especially nice-looking Western women. So what I'm saying is that simply by having that standard, they're going to turn that into a lose-lose scenario for you because that's who they are. Do what he says. Don't allow it. Just know that that means you're going to be by yourself, and that ain't your fault. That's why it's important for you to know that it's not your fault. Number two, never fight another man over a woman. We agree. Guess what West Tanisha is going to try to do? If she realizes that that is how you are, then she's going to try to get you to fight another man over her. Shuck that fit. She'll get you to fight that best friend from number one if she can. Now, if you do, you're stupid. And if you don't, you're a coward. You can't win either way. That's already a catch-22. It's a standard, but they set up these standards for you to fail. They've already plotted and planned. What will we do if these men have the standards that show that they know what the F is going on? We're all going to be in agreement, sis. We're going to react in ways that make them think they're stupid. And that's why they're by themselves. And then we're going to turn around and say that we're by ourselves because we're not stupid. We're going to flip it on them. Do you understand now? Let's go to number three. Don't waste your time chasing a woman that doesn't want you. We agree. Now, what Western woman that looks nice can also admit that she likes you without feeling ashamed in front of her friends for liking you? What's going to happen if you don't pursue these women who don't want you and show that they want you? Well, you'll stay single. And then the one thing you need to know, again, which is that it's not your fault, will be the one thing no one will ever tell you. Most won't want you, which isn't your fault. And those who don't admit or don't show it in many cases will one day show you. Whether they really like you or not, they'll show you that they do. But that's going to be the day that they are a bad deal for you. And they want you to believe that if all you can get is this bad deal, then it's something about you that precludes you getting a better deal. So therefore, you're getting a deal at your level. No, you're not. Don't let these self-improvement gurus tell you that. They're right to improve yourself, better yourself. But like Lionel McTow said, BYFY, better yourself for yourself, because these men want you to think you're not getting better because you're not better. No, that's not how it is. You are in an artificial environment, maritally and sexually and romantically. They're all in on one thing, they're all in on this illusion that you're worth less than what you actually are. If you take them then, They won't want you as much as they may have wanted you to before anyway. So again, you couldn't win. Does that sound familiar too? Dr. Peterson, not to spend on a woman that brings no value to your life. Well, part of being a sexual labor union like they are in the West is what I just said for the last one. And that means they can't bring enough value to match what they demand of you to participate in the sexual labor union. You and I understand that a fair exchange is no robbery. But to them, a fair exchange is a robbery because they see you as inherently inferior because you see them as equals. So while they know that they're trying to artificially convince you that you deserve less than what you actually deserve, they still do see you as inferior because you don't view them as being inferior. And the funny thing is, you are already right and they're wrong. They weren't born inferior. They just demand that you see them as such just to have a chance at smelling the punani. They'll still hate you. But they really, really hate and disrespect men who see them as equal, let alone superior. And it shows up in spending. You spend to court or impress those women, it's really just accepting the notion that you must compensate for an innate inferiority so that they won't have to bring a fair value to you. Now, if you won't fall for that, they hate you. But if you do fall for that, they still hate you. If you know your worth, they'll tell not only each other, but themselves that you're zesty and sassy. And if you don't know your worth, they'll disrespect you for not knowing your worth. They'll use you. Either way, they're refusing to bring the value to your life unless it's a negative value offset by some sort of liability. It's who they are. He's right about the standard again, but that is exactly how you wind up being what Dr. Jordan Peterson himself condemned, a single man whom he called weasels before and had to apologize for calling them such. He also said to never take back a woman who leaves you for another man or to stay with unfaithful or grateful women. When you look at 5 through 8, though, they're pretty much the same. They seem the same. What they really mean is don't tolerate her placing another man over you, let alone cheating on you, disrespecting on you, or being ungrateful to you before it even gets as far as cheating. Well, he's right again. But the men in the West are out there single because you won't tolerate this. If you will, you're single. And if you don't, you're single. So you got to understand that this notion that if you were really a good man and a natural man and you were really truly hetero, you'd wind up with somebody is designed again so that you would wind up settling for less than what you deserve. And Western women that are halfway decent looking are all bent on disrespecting you, cheating on you, and not thanking you for your efforts. They're bent on that. You see, they get social points from their friends for doing these things, and they get demoted socially for being faithful or appreciative or respectful towards you. And they're not ready for those social demotions, that social disapproval from the hyena clan. They're not going to stand up to that kind of pressure either. So they will just keep being harsh to you. And if you won't stay with them, you will leave all of them who do date you. Because they'll date you and they're going to push that boundary and you can't win except by just no longer giving them a shot and then we're closing the door. Okay, you failed. One strike, you're out. That's it. Then you will be blamed for being single again. And this is why you must learn and internalize what I've been telling you before, that it is not your fault before you try to win that rigged game. The standards are necessary. They're necessary for your safety, physically, financially, and mentally, but they also mean you will be alone most of your life until you leave the West and its satellites. And that's the end of it all. And until that time that you leave and you're single, you must understand it's not your fault. And if you land somewhere else and you wind up single for a while because you're learning the lay of the land, it's not your fault. Nothing you could have avoided that. It's said and done. They know you need these standards to protect yourself from them, and they're out to make sure that if you have them, you remain by yourself as a punishment. And if you don't have them, then you remain useless to the next woman because she wants to make sure you're only useful to her. So that as long as they can shame single men for being single, and as long as they can convince you that it means you're defective, they can keep you trying while they just raise standards for you to meet while lowering the standards they will ever be willing to meet themselves collectively, en masse, cooperatively, as a conspiracy. It is rigged, and we think it is that way without them intending this. Even Dr. Jordan Peterson would not address the collective intention they have in response to anyone who has these standards. He didn't mention that part. It's not accidental, just like my students who don't belong in a university, let alone an advanced English level class at a university. I can tell you that, frankly, it's intentional, just to make sure that you must bring more value than you can demand by a wide margin and that you give without getting. Just like my students are out here acting retarded and incapable and always testing boundaries like some dumbass Project Crack babies or hillbilly rugrats, meth babies, so that other lazy bastards can come behind them. These broads out here trying to farm you psychologically for their retirement plans and stepdaddy needs so that their daughters and even strange women they don't know, unrelated to them, can come behind them and be of the same low value while demanding the same high value men for whom they refuse to be of a commensurate high value. They aren't denying you their youth and fertility because they're just distracted at the moment that they're young. They're intentionally trying to give these things away to jigaboo stereotypes so that they won't have them left to give to you. And they're telling each other to be in on the gig so that you and I can't even expect to meet them when they have these things still, their youth and their fertility. It's intentional and planned, and this is why Glorilla is out here making herself a bad deal for any man and bragging about it. She hates to be a man's piece, and she hates to carry a man's child too, unless she knows he doesn't want to be a dad yet. Now, you take some man that does satisfy her hypergamy, but he doesn't want to settle down with her. She will tell him to pump in her pussy. She will not abort. You understand? All of a sudden, all that's going to go out the window. She said men are trying to baby trap her. She was broke and they were loaded compared to her. She would be trying to baby trap them. She said it herself. And she said she hates being a man's piece. And when she takes that confession post down, I'll still have it available for you to see in the business and first class lounges of Jet Black Air. And if you're watching this on YouTube, the link is in the description, along with the other confessions I am amassing now there. All I want you to do is to notice that everything that Dr. Peterson rightly says you shouldn't do, they're out here demanding that you have to do and deal with to be with one of them. And then they won't respect you if you do. Male friends, while refusing that you have female friends, ingratitude, while demanding you appreciate them for doing things they wanted to do anyway or doing nothing, immaturity, while demanding you be mature and stately, but then calling you corny for that and disrespecting you for it, cheating while demanding that you be able to cheat, but not actually cheat. They're insisting on you tolerating all of this as if they sat down and agreed as to why a man should leave a woman, what valid reasons a man would have for leaving a woman, and then they agreed that they would all collectively offer no better than these things and would blame men who had the smarts to avoid them collectively for these things. Stop thinking it's anything other than intentional and willful. And since it's en masse and collective, I didn't say a mass, but en masse, E-N space M-A-S-S-E, French for in a mass, and it's collective, that makes it a conspiracy. When you start walking away like you know they knew what they were doing and that's why they did it, you're doing the right thing. And while they will get the message, they won't start to offer better. But there is a chance that the little girls of today will see the consequences of this on the broads that are now running this game, and they might decide to not continue in that vein the same way as Generation Z and millennials decided to continue not having this solid work ethic that boomers were always talking. Some of my Generation Xers were always talking about them having, without the expectations and demand that it would pay off financially, because they saw how it did nothing for the silent generation or for the boomers or for Generation X. Let me take that back, except for the silent generation or Generation X. It did nothing except work us hard and reward us with poverty. You are not to understand this that I'm telling you so that the ones currently playing the games will stop playing them. They will not. You are to understand what I'm telling you for the purpose of the younger girls seeing that there are consequences, instead of seeing their elders play these games the way that the current ones playing the game saw that their elders played it and did not have to face any consequences. And maybe the young boys that are still kids will grow up into a market that will be a bit fairer to them, or no, noticeably fairer to them. And if not, they will know that they're not to sit up and try to trade in that market, that they should go somewhere where the market is more equitable and fair. I hope that what I've said to you was a benefit, even more than what Dr. Jordan Peterson told you by itself. I hope that I've added to that. As always, thank you for listening. Black heart, black mind, black out. Assalamu alaikum, and black heterosexual, non-select male power because they don't like it, and black patriarchy until extinction or judgment day. Thank you for flying with us here on Jet Black Airways, where the phrase jet black is also a verb. Keep jetting black with us until the wings and the wheels fall off. Gender justice forever.